Good morning, everybody. Today, I have a question for you. What do you fear? Has that fear ever stopped you? In any way? Completely stopped? A barrier? Slowed you down? If so, this is the vlog for you. I have many fears, as most people do. But when it comes to running, my fear is that I'm gonna cramp during my marathon. I have done 6 marathons, 1 ultra marathon, and there was only one, my first marathon, where I never cramped. If it wasn't for the fact that I love running and training and enjoying the process of getting better and pushing myself, I probably would have quit this sport a long time ago. Because for all of you that suffer from cramps, and you suffer from the same kind of cramps that I do, which is a seizing, nasty cramp that you can't fight through, your hamstring or your calf lock up on you, where you just can't run, it's just too much. Well, I might not have run 6 marathons if that happens on my first one. That's the kind of cramp I'm talking about. And just a quick FYI, we're on a long run today. 14-mile long run, a depletion run. I've never done a depletion run before. That's when you run it without nutrition before or during. So when I was young, my father, he pulled me aside, and I don't remember why, but I would have to assume it was because I was unhappy for some reason. And he told me his mantra, which is just do your best. Even if you fail, ask yourself the question, did I do my best? Did I give it my 100% effort and focus? If the answer was yes, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. And if you failed, that's okay, because you did your best. My dad he's passed away, and he's been gone for over 10 years now, but I'm not sure if he knows how much that has stuck with me. That's what gave me the confidence and drive to continue pursuing my goals and my dreams. Bringing it back to cramping. If I ask myself that question about did I do my best, for me, part of that answer is, did I learn everything I can learn about running? Do I know everything that I need to know? And the answer is no. Oftentimes, I'm too busy to read and, well, okay. If I had to be really honest with myself, it's not that I'm too busy. It's that I didn't prioritize reading or having in-depth analysis discussions about running and my body, the science of it, and everything like that. I'm familiar, don't get me wrong, but I haven't really done my best to challenging myself. So, last month was February, and that was my birthday month. And I dedicated that month to investing in myself and learning about myself. So, I booked myself 3 appointments: a sweat test, running form analysis test, and a VO2 Max Test. I took my sweat test with Vision Quest. It's one of the few places that do this type of test in Chicago. You don't need to run or anything. They stick on some electrodes on you to accelerate you to sweat and put it in a machine. And and it tells you how salty your sweat is. A little echo. Shout out to Dave, who did my test and explained to me a bunch of stuff. The test itself was like, I want to say $170 or $180. I'm a moderate sweater. You get this report that's emailed to you with recommendations on how to hydrate. And gosh, you know, it might have been an expensive test, but the knowledge I got from it was I totally messed up my hydration during the Chicago Marathon race. Recommendation is to drink, you know, 500 milligrams of sodium. And I used the Scratch Labs like high sodium 1700 pack for my hydration. So I wasn't getting enough liquid in, even though it was expensive. It's a one-time test. You don't have to really repeat it because your sweat is your sweat, right? Is it worth it? You're doing it once in your life? I think so. Confirms what you may or may not know. You might know you're already sweaty based on your extended workouts. You might know if you sweat a lot, but that's the other thing too. They don't measure how much your sodium depletion is. That's on you. You gotta fill out these spreadsheets to see how much liquid and volume you lose throughout your workouts. So, you know, work's not done yet. All right, that feels a lot better. I ditched my jacket and my gloves. It might be 40 degrees, but it feels more like 60 today. Test number 2, running form analysis at Heartbreak Hill. So this is free. Heartbreak Hill has a Nike Science Lab that gives runners free form analysis. They have these cameras that look at you from different vantage points, and they measure kind of like your running cadence as well as your running form and angles. I decided to run my session at threshold pace because I figured that would be the best test with regards to my running form and seeing if it breaks down or if there's areas for improvement. So threshold pace for me is around 7:30. So held that for a couple minutes, and the results, they show you kind of like how the, you know, computer essentially analyzes your, you know, your running form. And you know, they also break it down in 6 categories that they put in this hexagonal graph, which is nice, but I'm gonna be honest, it confused me a little bit. I don't really know if, you know, from a you suck perspective to you're amazing, ideal space, you know, at least my interpretation is that you want it to be as balanced as possible. I definitely do not have enough lean in my runnings, and you know, that kind of makes sense. The last few months I've been doing slow motion video, posting it on Instagram, showing you guys my workouts, but also part of it is so I can see my running form. And it kind of confirms something I've always been suspecting, that I'm not using my glutes enough. One of the problems I never have is cramping in my glutes or feeling sore in my glutes. If my glutes aren't feeling like they got a workout, then I'm probably doing something wrong. And I recently heard a physical therapist on social media. She described it as, do you feel like you're pushing with your glutes or pulling? And that really resonated with me because that's why it feels so hard for me to go up in speed, is because I feel like I'm pulling. So you're resisting, you know, so going up in higher speeds is challenging. I just had this light bulb moment and I'm like, man, am I pushing? And I can say now that I'm very focused and attuned to that. So last couple of runs, I'm like, yeah, I'm pushing. So I think we're making some progress. I also want to give a shout out to Family Style Run Club for putting on that event and letting me hang out with you guys. And to round off, saving the best for last, VO2 Max Test. Before we go more into that, we're meeting up with South Loop runners, 9 a.m. crew, share some miles with them during these winter months. Although it's warm today. Just finished my run with South Loop runners. I love those guys. If you're in the Chicago area, you live in the South Loop, feel free to join us, 9 a.m. It's a fun time. Gotta get home to the kids. I'm not gonna lie, that depletion run, oh man, that hurts so much. I think there is something to say that having a good nutrition plan, as well as being hydrated, probably really important towards the end of the race, is what I'm learning. So let's pick things up on VO2 max testing. And if you don't know what a VO2 max test is, it measures essentially how well the body utilizes oxygen and how much oxygen you take in. VO2 max test is also normalized with your weight. So that way you can compare your VO2 max test against somebody else. You know, you have this mask on you, which you might or might not have seen. It's sealed tight, so that way the machine can measure your oxygen and your CO2 take. The effort throughout the test continues to increase. And it only really lasts 10 to 12 minutes, assuming, you know, you're going all out. Because it's measuring your oxygen and your carbon dioxide, there's nothing you can do to really, unless maybe like you're not breathing properly, but otherwise the test, there's nothing really you can do about it. And that's because the body doesn't lie. I was quite nervous about it because, again, while your results are your results, you know, I am a pretty competitive person. I'm also someone that takes a lot of pride in, you know, all the work that I do. So doing 2 marathons, you know, I should theoretically be, you know, at some level of fitness that I should be proud of. But, you know, when I was at my peak 2 years ago, going into the test, I thought I was not at that same level. So I was sort of afraid to see that the results I would get would confirm that. But at the same time, though, there's nothing you can really do about it. So, you know, the information that you get from this test, you can use to benefit yourself for the future. I paid for this VO2 max test myself. So I took this test with 4-Star Endurance, and 4-Star Endurance also helps to coach my charity team. So Coach Chris, who administers the test, he has this pretty cool setup with VO2 max test. But not just that, but he's piloting out some other tests and results that I think I'll make content on, maybe shorts or Instagram. So it won't be the focus of this video. This will stay purely on VO2 max testing, you know, skipping to essentially like the results. So I did well. I did better than I thought I would. I think I scored something like a 58, and I think 2 years ago I scored a 58.2 or something. So I scored a 58, and what does that mean? So I'm gonna post. So here are the results, and the one thing I like about this test is the first time I took this test, my heart rate actually did something quite odd, which it spiked at the beginning of the test, which, you know, it kind of screws up the test a little bit because part of your results is helping you figure out what your training zones are according to your heart rate, which is really cool and a really awesome detail that I think when you hear about VO2 Max Test, people don't know is that you are refining your training zones when you take this test. So when it comes to knowing your lactate threshold, you know exactly where you are. And the biggest takeaway on this test for me is that I was able to finally dial in on what my zone 2 is, which is like, now I know it's a 125. That helps me to know better on where I need to be at when I'm doing my easy paces and what range I need to be in. Not only is it, another data point for me, knowing where I need to be within those training zones, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, as I'm going on long runs or my workouts, it's pretty huge. And what I'm learning too is that now that I've built my aerobic fitness, how can I, what training zones do I need to be in order to, really get the most out of my marathon? And one thing that I'm looking to do, especially in this block, is to put in more zone 3 or upper zone 2 type of workouts during my long runs, which I did not really do for either Chicago or for Big Sur, VO2 Max Test wise. In most cases, you're probably paying, in the US, you're paying at least $200 to $300 for it. Do I think it's worth it? Yes, I do. It's probably, out of all of the tests, and to even redo it, it's definitely the most valuable, at least from my standpoint, because, how your day-to-day training is going to be affected and your strategy with that, your VO2 max and knowing your training zones, that's going to be the key. And, once you have that number, that's when you start to really geek out. And that's where, even for myself, it's like when I really need kind of like that feedback or data, I have a heart rate strap that I wear. And, when you have your own VO2 max test and you have that available to you, and then you have accurate heart rate data, now you can really train and you can really fine tune and dial in. You can't do that if you're just using your smartwatch, because I can tell you, having used Apple, definitely not accurate whatsoever. The thing thought I had like a 215, max heart rate. Definitely not true. Garmin wristwatches are a little bit better, but usually there's 5-10% error, and depending on the conditions, it could be way off more. So having a heart rate strap gets to be really, really important. Just seeing where I am, and as you go into a marathon training build, you can kind of see if you're getting stronger or not, because your heart rate should be decreasing as your paces sort of increase or stabilize. So that's pretty cool to see. And, I have definitely seen that after coming back from my 2 marathons. I would tell you that my zone 2, when I was first coming back and training back up, I was averaging 13 minute per mile paces in order to get to lower zone 2. Now it's like 10 or 11 minutes, which is like a 2-minute improvement. That's huge, and that didn't happen overnight. That happened over an entire year. So where will I be a year from now if I continue to remain consistent? And that's sort of exciting. And that's the part that I hope to document, to capture for you guys. And maybe it can help you guys grow as runners too. Well, that's it for this video. It's a long one, but I think it was a good one. Got a little nerdy in the middle, but that's who I am. I like to dig deep into the details. I like to do that sort of thing. So, again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if don't be afraid to interact in the comments, or follow me on Instagram. I'm active there as well. So follow my Strava. Although, to be honest, I am sort of injured right now, so I'm taking a little bit of break, hoping to heal up, but I hope to be back at it soon, running. But in the meantime, I might be on the bike for a little bit. But regardless, I hope hope to catch you in the next one.